Hello, welcome to Brap Life. I'm so excited about things that are happening with the podcast right now. It has been super amazing to watch this podcast grow and to reach more and more people, to get all of the messages from you guys. It's really, really inspiring. And I absolutely love being able to share that with the people on these interviews. So keep the messages coming. Thank you so much for the support. It's been absolutely amazing. And keep an eye out on my Instagram for some really cool announcements coming up. In the meantime, enjoy today's episode. It's with Reagan. He's a rider out of California, and he is getting into hard enduro a little bit more this year. Last year he raced B class, and this year he'll be going to A class. He is extremely dedicated and very passionate about riding, and this is an absolutely amazing conversation, one of my favorite to date. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you next week.
Yep. So welcome. This is Brap Life. So I appreciate you coming out and talking to me. I think this is going to be really, really cool. I'm super excited.
No, I appreciate it as well. I appreciate it, Angel. I think what you're doing is really amazing for the community. It's showcasing a lot of like unknown riders that you normally, couldn't really get a hold of or know anything about them. So I appreciate you asking me to be on, and it's honestly an honor because I think what you're doing is gonna keep progressing. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to help get people's stories out there and, hopefully this inspires somebody and I that's the biggest thing is since this all started is I get a lot of messages about, "Oh, I really relate to this that person said," and stuff like that. So, I think that that's really awesome and I can turn around and share that with those people and you get to hear that you inspired somebody, that somebody, could be somebody across the world or across the country. So, I think that that's really cool.
No, that is like I think the most important aspect of any type of sport, action sport as well, is growing it, because a lot of people get caught up in just kind of doing, what they want, which is fine. Everyone has their goals and stuff, but it's always translating to the next kid, so being like
Mhm.
a good role model, showing kids like the progression aspect is amazing, and just kind of being like someone that they can look up to and be like, okay, that's a cool story. So I think it's all about inspiring. Personally, it's inspiring grows the sport. It makes people want to do more things. So I think that's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, on that note, so do you want to tell us kind of how you got into riding in the first place? You've got kind of a little bit of a different history to your riding. You did a different kind of riding before. Um, but do you
Yeah.
want to kind of go through some of that?
Yeah, for sure. So how I got into riding, I was about 3 years old. My dad started me out, just on a normal pedal bike. He would run me up and down the road, and it was really cool because I never started with training wheels. He would just support me, and then eventually I kind of learned the balance, and he just let me go, and it worked out from there. And then that made my dad get me a PW50, who was
Mhm.
it was also a bike to two kids that had learned how to ride on it as well, two brothers. So it was pretty cool. It was those PW50s, they get every kid riding, which I love. I love to see it. Like nowadays I get like a nostalgic feeling just seeing a kid on a PW50. But was super fortunate to have one of my dad's buddies who had a little property just off the side of the road in Clovis, and we would just go
Mhm.
right out there. It was flat. It wasn't anything crazy, but it taught me a lot of the like fundamentals with just kind of riding. And then that translated to my dad getting me a Polini 50, which was a really good bike. It had no gears. It was just, I think it was one gear, and it was like really fast. It was one of those Cobras kind of. But anyways, I love that bike. We'd go ride. He kind of started me kind of doing like track riding, and we'd go out to like Gorman and did a couple days out at Gorman. My mom would like ride a TTR. I have a vivid memory of my mom like looping a TTR, just learning how to like
Oh
take
my
off. It
gosh.
was super funny because my dad like kind of got us all into riding pretty much, like the
Mhm.
whole family. Like he he rode, and his dad had got him into riding along with like one of his uncles, I believe, that rode a lot, which was, yeah, my dad's one of my grandpa's brothers. So anyways, they just kind of rode. They never really took it like crazy serious. They just went and had trail rides. They just went and had fun. So my dad kind of did it for the family. But yeah, that vivid memory of my mom looping the TTR, man, that was super funny because she like stood it up and everything, and then I think she just kind of like let it go. But yeah, after the Polini, my dad got me a KX65, and that bike like freaked the crap out of me. When I was a young kid, I remember him being like telling me like, "Oh, you're gonna have to use this clutch
Mhm.
and all these things." And at like the time, I was like, "What the heck?" Like I didn't even know what like a clutch was, and I just kind of thought it was too much for like my brain. But my dad was super patient with like teaching me how to ride properly, and
Yeah.
that was like a really gift that like I'm very thankful for, because I feel like I see a lot of moto dads like in the racing community, and like those kids are amazing who rip, but they get on their sons pretty hard. You know what I mean? My dad never pressured me to race. He just wanted me to have an outlet to have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it was really cool because still have vivid memories of like him teach. Once I learned how to ride the clutch, he like wanted me to learn all the fundamentals of like coming in really hot and like grabbing the clutch and like grabbing both brakes and like stomping down into first gear and like stopping. So out in the same field that I grew up riding in, he would like stand probably like 200 yards away, and he'd be like, "I want you to like practice like just coming at me super fast, and sometimes I'm just going to step out in front of you and you have to just slam on the brakes." And I was like, "Okay." But yeah, he would just like step out in front of me when I was like 50 yards or 30 yards away, and I'd have to just be like, "No, no, 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 no," and slam on the brakes, and then he would be like, "Go ahead, take off." And like, so he was very good with like all those little fundamentals, which I think
Mhm.
a lot of people, that's a big step that like a lot of people do skip. Like, don't get me wrong, it's good to go ride. The more you ride, the better you'll get. But those little fundamentals, I think even to like nowadays, like dropping into like gnarly stuff, like it all has helped me. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and that kind of just progressed from there. TTR 85, and then I got a 250 after the 85 because I loved the TTR for trail riding. At the time, like I don't know, I kind of got into like a weird just like phase of not wanting to ride the 85, probably because of the
Mhm.
power. I think the power was a little bit too much. We didn't do a lot of track riding. I'd ride out at this spot called Taft. It was a really
Mhm.
good spot, Taft, California, but not in like the Honolulu hillside. They have a really cool motocross track out in Honolulu Hills, but we'd go to like the bigger hills in the back, and it was like all ravines, canyons, and like big hill climbs. So I just kind of like the TTR. But when I
Mhm.
got a little older, I realized how powerful the 85 was and how good the suspension was. So I like had a couple months of riding that. And when I was young too, my dad, like, I did sports and all of that. I played a lot of soccer. Outside of school, I did like club soccer, and then in school I did soccer, I did track, I did cross country, football, and all of that. So like my riding with my dad, we'd probably go out in the wintertime maybe only 3 times a year. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't like we were avid like every weekend dirt bike riders. It was kind of like, "Hey, we got this weekend. My dad has this weekend free. I don't have any games. Like, we're going to the desert." And my
Mhm.
brother would ride with me as well. I have an older brother who's 29. I'm 27. So he rode as well, but he kind of like isn't. He didn't really like it. He had a really bad fall when he was young out in the desert, and it was just one of those things. He just kind of put it away and just didn't like it, which
Yeah.
is fine. He got into like other sports in school and stuff, and he did really good. He actually went to like the Junior Olympics in volleyball and stuff with a good volleyball team.
Wow.
So he like kind of did that avenue, but I always try to juggle it all. Like I always wanted to ride my dirt bike. When we got to the desert, I would always look forward to it. You know what I mean? It was one of those things that I just like would watch videos. I couldn't go to sleep. the nights like leading up to it because I'd just be like watching YouTube videos of like desert riding or anything, or watching Dust to Glory. That's like an amazing video that a lot of people still like talk about till this day. But yeah, so we didn't ride like a crap ton, and that's kind of why I've always rode like my BMX bike as well. I kind of would result to that because that's something I could do every day. You know, I'd grab it out the garage and I'd go ride the BMX bike. But it was it was one of those things like I wish I always rode dirt bikes more, but I was always grateful for the amount that I did ride because it was just fun. And then I kind of put that away, but also I guess kind of tracking back. Yeah, we'll track back a little bit. When I was in like fourth grade, I had a pretty like crazy, like traumatic accident, like health wise, to where for a month straight I was like really, really sick, and my parents didn't
Mhm.
really know why. And like even around that time, I rode. We went to the desert once, and I'd go ride, and like I'd ride fine, and then I'd cough. Like when we'd stop riding, I just cough nonstop, nonstop. And then that also translated to like when I'd go run at school for like PE or track and stuff because I was doing track at the time. But when I'd go run, I'd just like fall. Like it was really weird. I'd like fall apart. Come
Mhm.
full circle. My parents, like, we were up back on our way from the desert one time, and my dad, like, I just was like falling apart. My dad was like, okay, we need to take you to the hospital. Ended up we got like x-rays on my chest and everything. And the doctor I had at the time like freaked out because I ended up having like a viral heart infection, which was called myocarditis. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I like got admitted into the hospital, and this was like this was when I was in like fourth or fifth grade, but I got admitted into the hospital. And they were saying like my chances of living was actually pretty thin because if you look into myocarditis, it's like a really bad viral heart infection that at the time it actually did kill a couple kids, which is pretty
Mhm.
sad, man. And my parents, when I got into the hospital, I could tell because my parents were like really freaked out about the whole situation. But you know, I think everything in life kind of has its like play, and everything happens for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once I got hooked up to everything and like all these vitals and everything, I kind of like looked at my parents, and they were kind of like freaking out. But I remember telling them like specifically like I'll be okay, you know. And I ended up actually being okay, thank God, you know. But come full circle again, the doctor told my parents that I'd be like kind of the sluggish kid. I'd be like slow at recess. I wouldn't be able to do physical activity because of this heart thing. Ended up like getting right back into cross country and everything, and like being a valley champion in the 400 meter, and like kind of like shocking a lot of people at the time because my cross country coach like lost all faith in me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once I got out of the hospital and I was like healthy again, I felt great, which is like really like I'm super thankful for that I never
Yeah.
like had any prolonged things with that. But yeah, so dirt biking kind of got like thrown out of the picture for a while after that. I think just life and, you know, growing up and just kind of aging. I went to junior high and like rode a couple times, like probably only 4 times out of like 2 years, maybe, which I was super thankful for. But dirt biking slowly started to like fade away. And that's not related to health. I think it was just life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of just doing a bunch of sports and riding my BMX bike, especially. Like I started getting really into the BMXing, like really heavy, probably going into high school. And I've always, like I said, I've always ridden my bikes, but I started taking it a lot more serious. I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos of like professional BMX riders doing like street stuff, and
Mhm.
I always jumped dirt jumps. Like I always had dirt jumps around my neighborhood that me and my buddies would go to. We would jump the dirt jumps and all this stuff. But I ended up, you know, YouTube started when I was a young kid. YouTube started blowing up, so
Yeah.
that was really cool to see because I could like see a lot of these videos that I didn't know were even a thing or like what was a thing. I learned a lot from like just watching YouTube videos as a young kid. But anyways, would watch these pro riders do these crazy things and kind of got just involved in like riding my BMX bike a lot. Spent probably 10 years or 9 years riding that just consistently, and I didn't ride my dirt bike at all. Kind of just dropped the dirt biking. My dad didn't ride. I think we went to the track maybe probably once or twice out of that whole 10 years. I think my dad was like, "Hey, I want to go to the track and just mess around." I wasn't even like really a track rider. I just like riding, and I
Yeah.
like jumping because I was always jumping my BMX bike. And I have a local track. Probably I have a couple local tracks, but there's a pretty known track called DT1, and it's in
Mhm.
Tulare, and that's a really good track. A lot of kids who are really good riders have like came out of that track. A lot of really known people actually go to that track as well, and they have actually a lot of big races there. So we'd kind of go there and play around, but invested a lot of my time into just riding my bike. I ended up getting into filming BMX, and I filmed. I would just meet people through riding, I guess you could say. A couple of my buddies like filmed me, and I have a bunch
Mhm.
of edits on YouTube from like back in the day that were they're good. They're good videos, and it's like cool to see, but it was never like how I wanted it, I guess you would say. So I started filming myself and like filming my buddies and like doing the whole thing of just filming each other out ride bikes and stuff. And it just progressed from there. You know what I mean? I ended up meeting people in the industry because they would see edits of like us in Fresno, California. They would see edits of like me and, all my good friends at the time. And I still consider them good friends. We just don't really talk that much anymore. But we would film a lot, and we ended up this one of these really like known dudes in the industry. His name's Grant Castelluzzo, and he's like a big filmer in BMX and everything. I
Mhm.
met him, and he ended up we like spent a whole like couple, I think it was like a week and like a weekend, and showed them a bunch of spots that like we had that like a lot of people didn't know Fresno had, and they filmed a video for this company called We the People, and they're a company that's based out of Germany, but their bikes are sold all over the states. Like it's a really well known company. So he was filming for them at the time, and I didn't even really know I didn't know that he was like going to be their team manager. He ended up
Mhm.
like getting given like the job of being the team manager along with the filmer, and then like a couple weeks after he left, he like messaged me and he was like, "Hey, dude, like who supports your bike? Like who do you ride for? Yada yada." And I kind of told him, I was like, "Hey, dude, I actually only really have support from like this company that made grinding wax that we'd wax the rails with and like the
Mhm.
ledges and stuff. If people understand BMX, you know what I'm talking about, but it makes the pegs light easier. I rode for one company called Feeble Life, and he was just a good buddy out of San Francisco that just wanted me to ride for him and film videos. And then a local shop helped me, but I didn't have any like serious sponsors. And I told him that, and he ended up asking me if I wanted to ride for the company, which was like a big shock to me, but also like a really big goal of mine, I'd say.
Mhm.
I've always like want to like support companies and like show product and especially like get it out there because like I said, it's about inspiring people. And then if you can
Mhm.
sell product for companies, it also just makes it all the better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's you're selling the company's products by riding with them on your bike or whatever, and then it makes kids want to buy them too. So it was a really unique experience because they asked me to ride for them. So I ended up filming a video for them and doing a couple trips with them, and that was probably for a couple years. And then another company, after I released the video for We the People, they this company called Merit BMX, and they're based out of New Jersey, and their parts are sold all over the states as well. They're more of a components company. So We the People sells like frames, bars, forks, and all the like. They actually sell it all, but this company wanted me to ride for them. It was funny because when I released the video, the team manager, like, or the sales dude, he called me, and Ricky, which is Ricky Lopez. He's a really good dude, and thankful for that dude as well. He got me a lot within the industry. But he asked me, he was like, "Hey, so you're filming a video for us, right?" And I was just kind of like, yeah." Like, I wasn't, but that was kind of his way of being like, "Hey, dude, film a video and like give it to us." And so I went all in again, and I filmed another video, and I had a bunch of leftover clips too. But I filmed another video and made a video for them, and then they asked me, that was like a sponsored video as well, and they sent me a bunch of parts that like went really good with like the parts on the bike already. So super thankful. They flew me, that company in specific actually flew me out to like Denver one time. We filmed a video in Denver, which is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really unique experiences, and like without any, like, that's why I love two wheels. I always like learn all these cool things from it. And like BMX, like street riding BMX especially, it's pretty freaking scary, man. Like, and you see a helmet or that helmet right there or whatever, but I never wore my helmet, which was honestly kind of stupid, but I would do kind of like jump off roofs or like grind down big rails. So like it was always kind of like scary, and like that's what's cool though, is like kind of like scaring yourself. I think that's what's cool about it. But anyways, yeah, it was a unique experience. They flew me out to Denver, and then they flew me out to Atlanta, Georgia another time, and we filmed 2 videos. But I don't know, slowly along the line, going back into dirt biking, slowly along that line, I had some buddies who had got a dirt bike, and I still had dirt bikes in the garage. Thankfully, my dad's never sold them. We actually still have like my old 250F. My dad still has like his 209, and like I think, yeah, they're both '09 RMZ and a KX 450. And he's like, I tell him all the time, I'm like, please get rid of those bikes so we can go ride some. Like, he has to kick them. He's like an older 62, and he like, I don't want to go kick. I'm like, dude, get a bike with electric start. Just sell the bikes. But he's kind of just like the guy that likes to hold on to stuff. But anyways, my buddies kind of talked me into riding, like just going out and having fun with them again. Like they were like, hey dude, there's this local spot called Avenal. And it's actually my buddy named Brian who got me into it. Shout out to him, because without him in my life, I don't think I ever would have picked up a dirt bike again. I might have just stayed riding BMX. But he kind of convinced me. He's like, hey dude, let's go ride. And I pulled out my dad's KX, because I think my 250, I remember my 250 being like really clapped out at the time when I put it away. And it like had bad suspension. The carb needed to be rebuilt. It backfired. So I just was like, hey dad, I'm gonna ride the KX. And I had to like pull his arm to do it, but he let me go ride the KX 450. And ever since that day, I remember just getting back on the bike and going out and just riding like foothills. It wasn't anything gnarly. It was just foothills. There's actually a crew that builds some really big like free ride jumps out there that are like massive, like over hills and stuff. So we were like messing around on those, but I was still like pretty timid to jump like big, because I hadn't rode my dirt bike in like 10 years, because I got like really serious with the riding of BMX. But yeah, dude, once I got out there, there's some fun hill climbs. There's some little trails and stuff, but nothing like hard enduro. But yeah, ever since that day, I remember getting on that bike and just kind of thinking like, wow, the freedom. Like I don't know, like I love riding BMX, but like it never has brought me the freedom of like dirt biking. Like getting up on a mountain range and like seeing a beautiful view, or dropping down a gnarly canyon, seeing some crazy things in a canyon, just being out in the like wild. I think like it just sits in my like heart, right? So I automatically knew, I was like, I got to start riding again. And it was hard for a couple years. I think a lot of people people still kind of bag on me, because like I did have a pretty good establishment within the BMX community, but I don't know. I'm gonna do what my heart wants, and I really love dirt biking. And I don't try to do what others want. I guess you could say I'm gonna do what I want. Like I still go and mess around on the BMX bike, and like have fun. But man, when I get the opportunity and I have free time, I just want to go ride my dirt bike. Like it's one of the things I just automatically, that's all I think about. And a lot of people probably think I'm crazy too, but that's one of the things like I only think about all. And I'm very grateful for my good buddy Brett who works with me because all we talk about is dirt bikes all day. And like if I didn't have that, I'd probably go more crazy because people are look at us and we're just like rambling about racing, rambling about dirt bike setups. We're just going off. So super thankful for it. But there was a couple years where I fought that middle ground of like not riding a lot of BMX, and then I kind of got back into the BMX and I like rode it, and I went on. Merritt actually asked me to go on that Atlanta trip, and I was like, okay. And I went on that Atlanta trip with them, and you know, they could tell too. Like they're like, "Dude, you freaking love dirt bikes," and I was like, yeah, I kind of do. But I slowly just faded out of it and just got really back into it. I got a YZ250 because at the time one of my buddies had a YZ250, and I kind of just really liked the way the bikes looked. They looked like they kind of just did what I wanted at the time, which was more like big hill climbs, kind of just riding fast, like desert riding and stuff. So I got the YZ250, and that was like an amazing. I love those bikes, like it's super cool to see Cody Webb getting on those 250s because they have a lot of potential to them. You just have to kind of do some things to make them a better bike. And like seeing him on that company now, I'm stoked to see what the future is for Yamaha because who knows, you know what I mean? Who knows what's going to happen next with the build or with anything they're going to do. I hope it might be a bike. Like if they can get a better bike, it might be a bike that I get back on because I loved my 250. It taught me a lot. You know, I had to kick it, but at the time we were all kicking bikes. It wasn't like anyone had an electric start, so it was like whatever. But slowly transition into like more harder riding with some of my buddies. We just kind of like we had buddy. I had a friend at the time who owned like a compound, and he had like really big doubles out there, like free ride doubles. He had a freestyle ramp, so like I was jumping all that. I was doing all that with them, but it never like brought me the joy that like being on a technical trail per se, like being on a really gnarly like technical trail or a canyon that has like really hard rocks or going down a riverbed or going up like a rocky section. It never brought me that joy. So like I had a buddy that we would go out and we'd just be like, hey dude, let's just go ride hard stuff. And we just kind of ride hard stuff. And it transitioned into just finding harder trails. So there's a company called SRT. It's actually pretty big in the like hard enduro community. And you might see they're flagging at a lot of races and stuff. That company is actually based out of Fresno. So Craig Thompson owns SRT, and Corey Griffunders rode for SRT. Tristan Hart rode for SRT as well. So they have some trails, which I'm super blessed. They have some trails up in the foothills from here, or the mountains from here, the Sierras. It's probably only 45 minutes to an hour from my house. But they have some really hard technical trails that we started finding, which were like, we would just see them and we'd kind of be like, oh shit. Like those look kind of gnarly, but we'd take them slow and slowly just start doing it. But yeah, I kind of got more invested into trying to get into the harder riding. And I knew that like one of the key aspects to it was probably a better bike. You know, I needed an electric start. I needed a bike that had lower bottom end and all the good stuff to it. Yeah, so I was saving up a bunch of money at the time. I actually worked at UPS at the time, and I was saving just a bunch of money and still riding. And then I actually was selling the YZ250, and my dad like really likes that bike, and it was funny because I had it posted, and he was like, "I want to buy that bike." Da, 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 da. And I was like, "Dude, you're not gonna ride it, but hey, it's gonna sell regardless. So if you want to buy it, that's on you, you know." So he ended up buying it, and he hasn't even rode it. It's kind of funny because he bought it from me, and it helped me get my new bike for sure. You know, like I said, I was going to sell it regardless. It might not have happened as quick, but it probably would have sold. I have a bunch of extra parts for it. It was kind of already, it had like a really good skid plate with the linkage guard, and it was all like made for hard trail riding, I guess you would say. Maybe not hard trail, but bike had amazing lug. But anyways, yeah, he bought it, and then he like just let it sit in the garage for like 2 years, never even rode it. It was just sitting there. So I told him, I was like, hey dude, I'm kind of like doing these like local races out at Little Okie. We have these little, you know, like motocross races. It's kind of like it's like a motocross arena cross style track. It has like big tables, big doubles and stuff, and it's pretty fun. So I was getting into that, but I was doing it like just for cross training, kind of just getting starts down. Just it, I think any type of riding is going to translate to whatever you want to do. So more riding on the bike just is better. So I told him, I was like, dude, you're not even riding this YZ250. I'm gonna like put a 13 tooth back on it. I'm gonna like I'm gonna do everything I can do to it to make it a better track bike. So he was like, okay, that's fine, but like make sure you put those blue plastics back on it. I was like, okay. So I did that, and I like bought a graphics kit for it, and then I like took the suspension in because the suspension was like blown out. It was bad, which I felt bad giving it to him like that. So I like took the suspension to the guy, and we got it all tuned out and everything. And it's like the bike's ready for track riding, and it could probably still do some trail riding. But so I kind of tried to get it back going to him. But I do track ride it from time to time. But man, I love my enduro bike. I don't know what it is. Once I got that bike, I got an amazing deal on it. But once I got that bike, it just progressed my riding a lot. And I have a couple buddies who even they like, and I think I got that bike in 2022 or it was 2021. I can't remember, one or the other. It was like right after COVID, and the bike wasn't selling on Craigslist, and it was sitting on there for a while. And I ended up getting a really, really good deal on it. But yeah, freaking my buddies were like, dude, you have rode the crap out of that bike, and it has like progressed your riding. Like they just can see it, which is if like your homies can see it, and I could tell, especially like it helps me so much in like those hard situations. But yeah, now we're coming full circle. I've done a couple desert, actually this whole last season I've done a bunch of like hare and hounds for District 37, and I did the check chase last year, which, so if no one's familiar with, like, there's District 36 and District 37. District 37 is like more in the SoCal area, and they do like a bunch of desert sprint enduros, hare and hounds, and they have like a point system to it as well. So like you can't just go out there and like be like, oh yeah, I'm a fast rider, I want to like go ride in A class. They'll like kind of laugh at you and they'll be like, who are you? You know what I mean? So that's kind of how the point system works. But I went out and it was on my bike, my enduro bike, and I had it like more sprung, or I mean, my bike, I'm a little bigger guy, so like my bike's sprung a little heavier, but I could also tune it down pretty good with my compression. So it feels good in the desert. Like in fast-paced situations, the bike feels great. But yeah, we went out to this hare and hound, and I did novice, which was C class, because we had to, and my buddy kind of talked me into it. He was like, yeah, dude, these races are super fun. Like your style of riding, I think you'll love it. And ended up going out there. And so for the first, these hare and hounds are 80 miles. There's 40-mile loops to them. So the first 40 miles is more of like a fast-paced desert riding, to where it's like really like on the gas, like going through whoops, going through washes. And then the second half of these 40 miles is more of technical. It's not hard enduro, but it's maybe like soft and medium, depending on the club that organizes these things. So that's like, some people will excel in the first part, and then some people will struggle in the second part, because desert racers don't really like technical riding, from what I could tell, at least in these hare and hounds. I might be wrong. Everyone likes what they like, but from what I could tell is like if you're not good in the fast stuff and you're good in the slow stuff, you'll catch them in the slow stuff, because technical riding is just a little different, you know. But that first hare and hound I went to, I did really good. I actually pulled in, I think, like 15 minutes into the pits, like before the pack. I had pulled in super fast because I got like a really good start. And then I went out on the second half and I was like tracking it on my trachometer or my tack or whatever. You know, I had the miles. And I was like going, and they send us through like these mountain ranges and then through the desert. And I was like mobbing through the flat bottom of the desert out there in like Spangler Hills. That's where they have those. And I like popped a front tire right at like 55 miles. And I popped the front tire and I was just like upset. Like I freaking ate it because it, like, I knew it. I hit this really sharp rock. And I just told myself, I was like, dang it, dude, like, not good. And then, like, seconds later, it was like, and I had, like, fallen on the ground super hard. But I had to ride. It was either, like, call the race or just, like, send it. And I still had probably 25 to 30 miles, but I ended up just sending it, which was,
Oh my God.
I said, these second halves of the races are all rock. They're all.
Yeah.
They try to give you more rock up single track, up like down canyons and stuff. And then this one in particular was more of a technical one. The club did pretty good on it. So I was riding with just a flat front, like, and it changes the whole dynamic of your bike. It completely makes your suspension feel like it's not there. It just feels super rigid and rough. So I was just sending it, like pretty much just sending it the whole time. But I ended up getting past like towards the end, but ended up getting second place in that one still.
Wow.
Yeah, which was pretty funny, but I was dying the whole time. So ended up getting second in that, and that was like one of the last races of the season. So 2023 came around, and or was it 20? No, that was 23, and then 24 came around, and we were trying to do the whole season. So I did the check chase, and they allowed me to like move up to B class. In the check chase, made by Checkers MC, I got second, which was pretty decent. I felt like I could have done a lot better in that race. I kind of was a little impatient, I'd say, in the first half, to where I was trying to work around a lot of people, and I kind of like was taking dumb lines and just kind of like wadding out in like unnecessary situations, you know, that cost you time, but you don't really think about it. So I got second in that one, and then it was kind of just like a thing. I literally got second all the other races. It was kind of funny, but I ended up doing Donner in 23. Actually, I did Donner in 23 as well. That was my first hard enduro race. So in 23, we planned on it. A bunch of buddies and me were like, oh yeah, we can go do Donner, yada yada. Super funny. And like I say, with like social media, it makes everything look super easy. Because when we got there, we had like a rude awakening, pretty much. I entered A class, which was at the time probably not a good idea, because I had never even done a hard enduro. But I wanted, in my head, I told myself, I was like, because I had heard about these pro and A splits, and I told myself, I was like, I'm not gonna go to a race and do like the easy stuff. I want to do like the hard stuff. So I like, which was just kind of like some in my freaking head. I had never even done a hard enduro, which was, like I said,
Hey, I just did that a couple months ago. So, and I'm not a racer really. So I totally get it.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about this sport too, is it like humbles you quick. Like in a lot of situations, like I thought I was a really good rider, and I was stuck with a lot of A dudes on that course. I made it like, I think 3/4 of the way through the course and timed out. But I was stuck with a lot of A riders, and they were all saying, they're like, dude, I thought I rode hard stuff, but this is hard. And we were all saying that the whole time. So from then on out, I had like it was like a really great learning experience, because I was like getting passed by like all these pros, getting lapped, and kind of just watching like their riding and seeing how they were doing stuff. And then I kind of just started taking it like very like serious, I'd say. After that, I had like a bunch of other things I did. Like I had stand-up jet skis that I had at the time that I would do in the summertime because I thought it was too hot to ride a dirt bike when I can go up the mountains and it was probably 80 degrees, which is not bad. And like I said, it's amazing riding. So I was just making excuses to not get better, I guess you could say, thinking that I was already like pretty good, but ended up selling the jet skis. And I saw like an interview, I think, of Tristan Hart like beating Cody Webb for like the first time. And he was like talking about what like it took to get to that like position that he got in. And he talked about just like riding the trials bike
Mhm.
nonstop. He was always like, oh, if I didn't, he just put hours in on the trials bike, which I don't quote me, but I don't think he really rides it much anymore. The dude's just a freaking robot. But to get to like when he first beat Cody Webb, I don't know what race it was at. I think it might have been at TKO. Don't quote me on that either. But he was like talking about a trials bike. So I like didn't know what these trials bikes were. I'd always seen them, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna look into getting these. So I sold the jet skis and I bought a trials bike, and it automatically like had taught me. And I got it like not to be a trials rider, and a lot of people were like kind of like saying stuff about that at first, like, oh, you're riding fast on that bike. And I was like, I didn't get it to like learn trials. Like I could if I wanted, but I wanted to learn like hard enduro techniques, which it's a
Mhm.
lighter bike. It's like 100 pounds lighter and it doesn't have a seat. So you can like go up on side hills and learn pivots and learn these technical things, get in really tight situations and learn how to get up stuff. So that like opened up a whole window, like right after Donner, and that's at the end of the year. I just was like, all right, I'm going in on this. So I got a trials bike. Ended up kind of going back now. Like I said, I did the whole 20. I should have, and I always get on myself too because I'm kind of like a procrastinator, or at least I used to be a procrastinator with like, doing things. Like it's easy to talk about it, and a lot of people can sit there. You could sit there at the campfire or wherever with your buddies and be like, hey, dude, I'm going to go race King of Motos next year. And then it comes around the corner and it's like, hey, are you ready? No, I'm not doing
Mhm.
that. So that was kind of like the position I put myself in last year the beginning of this year. I was kind of just like, oh, I'm going to go do desert races. But I really wanted to get into the hard enduro. But I told myself, I was like, I'll just do Donner, whatever. So I did all those desert races leading up to Donner. And then when I went to Donner in 24, I kind of was I was like, okay, I don't want to do A class because I actually want to ride the course and I want to kind of, I guess, like establish my name within this like hard enduro industry. So I went out and like signed up for B class. Ended up doing pretty good in the prologue, getting a really decent start line. At least on my start line, I got the whole shot and I got out great. And I was sitting and I was battling and sitting in fourth and fifth, right between like right behind like Hayden Guest, which is Ryder Guest's brother. But it was
Mhm.
cool. We were like battling out the whole time. But along the line, I freaking dropped my bike somewhere and it like bent my radiator in a little bit to where the hose was sitting right on the power valve, which if anyone knows how the TPIs are, the old style TPIs, the coolant hose just runs really close to the power valve. So unfortunately, I had a little plastic piece and it burned all the way through the plastic because you're doing hard enduro, like your bike's freaking hot. So it burned all the way through the plastic piece and it like burned right through my line and it just dripped out all my coolant. My bike like started sounding really weird coming into the pits for lap 2. And I think it was still had some coolant in because of the angle that it was going downhill, down elevation. And then when I took off for the second lap, my bike just sounded like horrendous. It was sitting there like climbing and it was starting really like abruptly and I was like, what the heck, dude? And seeing my check engine light, it was like flashing, which I guess I don't know if the bikes do that to kind of warn you. Pretty cool, but it was doing that before I went in the pits, and that was kind of concerning me. And then when I got out on the second lap, I think I got like a quarter of a way through, maybe more, and then it just started sounding really bad. And I looked down at the temperature gauge and it was sitting at about like 100, which the bikes are supposed to be at like 200. So I felt the radiator and it was dead cold. And I was like, oh, shoot. So I popped the cap, nothing. It was just like, usually it would be like, it was just nothing. It was like bare. It was getting like air cooled. So I just, I was like, dang it, dude. So I rode back to the van in hopes that maybe, I don't know, it just like burned out or freaking boiled over, you know? But yeah, I put coolant in it and it just freaking was like leaking out of the hole. So I kind of just threw Donner 24 away, which was kind of a bummer because I felt like, and then that coming in that second lap, I'm kind of like, it's hard for me to like get into the flow state. I guess you could say I'm getting better at it quicker. But like at the beginning of races, I kind of like I don't fall apart, but I'm not like on my A game. When I get like 3/4 of the way through or like halfway, it like clicks on and I just start feeling really good. So I started feeling really good and I felt like I could press, and then that kind of happened. But everything happens for a reason. Maybe I would have bought it out worse somewhere else or something would have happened. Who knows? But it was all a learning experience. I learned a lot like in that just Donner trip alone. I I went there like a little early. I went there on like Wednesday and I met up with Kellen, who is Moto Mullet. Really, really funny, cool dude. Shout out to him. He's awesome. But met up with him and literally, I think Thursday morning, the Hawaiians, like all the Hawaiian dudes, like pulled up on us at this spot we were camping at. And they were like, "Hey, we're going on a hard enduro ride." And that's obviously what we're there to do. So we went out and like, it was like really an eye opener. Then again, like riding with those dudes, like getting left in the freaking dust and just being like, oh my gosh. So I learned a lot that trip. And then like studying their riding as well. Like we would get to like sections and they would just like session the section like nonstop. They'd sprint up and like try a hard line and then they'd just come cruising down. And it was like, so that whole trip just taught me a lot. And then and again, like after that trip, it was like, okay, I'm going in now, like much harder. So just kind of started going in, started riding a lot more like harder trails that I had figured out in my local spot. I rode like the rest of the summer. I think this is the first weekend that I've taken off since Donner. After Donner, I've rode every single weekend and probably sometimes during the week. But yeah, ever since after Donner, it's been every single weekend. So this weekend, it's been a little weird, but I'm like kind of working on the bike right now. I'm like saving some money and just kind of going through it because those little things, even at Donner, like just those little things that maybe could have been avoided, but trying to really go through the bike. And it's like my whole program's just run off of me, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty thankful for my boss who I do work for. I do landscaping and construct and like concrete and like do a little bit of construction as well. But he has a son that rides and his name's Grant. And shout out to the Gilberts, Jeremiah and Kristen Gilbert. They're super amazing people and they understand that I like want to push my riding. You know what I mean? They see that I have the drive for it. So they're kind enough to like, they bought the graphics for my bike because they wanted the company on it. And then Jeremiah helped me out with like money for Donner, which is I'm like super blessed for that. So like, it's cool to know that like people understand that I'm trying to take this like somewhat serious. But yeah, my whole program, like my bike and everything, it's in what I do and how I go riding. It's all just based on my 9 to 5 job. I go out and work and then I work to play, which is what it takes, which is completely fine. It's what it takes. But I also love working too. I try to apply my best to whatever I do. So yeah, that's kind of a long introduction, I guess you could say.
That's okay. I think it's really cool that you mentioned, working. A lot of people do kind of make that excuse, and everybody's job is different. So I don't know everybody's job, but a lot of times people are like, "Oh, well, I work, so I can't do this and I can't do that." And it's like, okay, I
Mhm.
get that. But if you really want to, and like you really want to improve, you will find a way to do it because I, for the last 7, 8 months, I've been on the East Coast traveling, but I'm working every single day and I'm still riding like 4 or 5 times a week. But I wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to go to work at 4, and then I work until like 1 o'clock. And
Mhm.
then I'm tired, but I still would go load up my bike because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I I'm dedicated to improving, and it's a lot. I have a lot of coworkers who are like, "Oh my god, you're going riding again? Like, way hot outside." But I'm like, I if
Yeah.
I want to get better, I need to do it and not make excuses for it. So
For sure.
I I
Yeah.
really like that you said that because I mean, not everybody's like that, like I said, and that's totally fine. Everybody's different, but that's my personal way of being. So I think it's cool when I find other people who are like that.
Yeah. No, yeah, 100%. Well, the more you apply yourself, the more you will get out, the more the greater
Mhm.
the outcome will be. It might not be like instant, but if you stay consistent with it, you're going to get something out of it.
Yeah,
So that's kind of the
exactly.
mindset I try to take into everything, and just surround yourself with people who want to do what you want to do, because
Yeah.
you are what you surround yourself with. And if
Mhm.
people want to do what they want to do, that's fine, but if you don't want to do that, you don't have to surround yourself with those people. Do what
Exactly.
you want to do. It's that's one thing to it's a hard thing to battle for sure, but
Oh,
there's
yeah,
good
definitely.
yeah. Yeah.
So, the next thing that I wanted to go into is, so you talked kind of about how this year went. So,
Mhm.
what are your plans for 2025? What's that
So
look like for
yeah,
you?
this year was good. Like I said, I wish I would have done more hard enduros, but it's all right. I'm gonna apply myself fully with 2025. I plan on racing the full West Series besides Hawaii, unless someone sees this and has a bike for me to ride out in Hawaii. But I can't
Mhm.
really afford to like send my bike out there and not ride for a month.
Mhm.
I'd rather be able to ride, and maybe if someone does have a bike, I'd love to do Hawaii. But I plan on doing, King of the Motos, Grinding Stone, Moab, and then also Donner again in the A class. I'm gonna ride in the A class this year, and that's one thing that I've been riding with Psycho Enduro Dylan. Shout out to Dylan and his good buddy Cody as well. And yeah, I've been riding a lot with those dudes recently and learning a lot and also progressing a lot, which is really cool. But Psycho recommended that I should do the A class. So I'm going to hone in, and, I talked to a few other people. I rode with a bunch of dudes out in King of Motos, and they were saying like I should do A as well. So I'm going to really hone in on that and go my hardest I can do and keep it safe and also have a lot of fun. And I'm actually really excited for it. I don't think I've ever been this excited to like go into a race season. And like I said, I haven't really raced a lot in my whole like riding of dirt bikes, but like I think that's what it is too. Like I'm starting to like notice this drive I have for racing, because
Yeah.
everything that comes along with it, dude, like the camaraderie, the people, like you go to these events and you like meet a bunch of amazing people, and like it's a huge
Mhm.
family. You learn more about the bikes, you learn more about yourself, and
Yeah.
all that. You get up in some hard situations and you learn a lot about yourself. And that's what I love about hard enduro. So it's something that I just want to keep doing, and I don't think I'm gonna like go away really. I'm planning on staying. So I love it. Yeah.
That's cool. I love that you touched on the community. It's something that we talk about every single episode pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
from people who just trail ride all the way up to pros like Radford Chug. Everybody says the
Yeah.
same thing about the community. And there isn't a better community out there than the off-road community. I mean,
For
I had
sure.
previously talked and, talked about how people were giving me bikes to ride when I was a new rider.
Yeah.
And
That's
people
awesome.
do stuff like that all the time, and it's so cool. Everybody's just there to help all the time. I've been offered places to stay at hard enduros because, people knew I was traveling and they're like, well, it's one less thing on your plate to worry about. So just come and stay with us. And it's like, okay, like that's so awesome.
Yeah, no,
And like, it is a family, like you said.
yeah.
That's what it ends up becoming. And I started following the US series in April, and I ended up at a bunch of the East Coast rounds. And traveling from the East Coast to Arizona a few weeks back, I had so many people offering to help me get out here because I was coming out for my grandfather. My grandfather was passing at the time,
Mhm.
and people who I've spoken to maybe once or twice at a race were offering me money for hotels or gas money, anything to help me get there.
Cool.
And it's just absolutely incredible. Nobody had to do that, but they did. And because like you said, it's just that family, that camaraderie. And outside of being around the military, I've never seen that. And it's so different. Like you were talking about, like you go through so much on your bike and with other people, like in a race situation, but you're still doing it alone on your bike. But
Yep,
you know what the guy next to you is going through, and you guys are fighting through it at the same time, and it's just like
sure.
it creates a camaraderie that I don't think you can find anywhere else.
No, yeah. And yeah, like you said, with like it's kind of like a singular sport, but in these hard enduro situations, if you're stuck in some canyons with people racing or just riding, it's
Yeah.
you might have to get some help, but I think it still falls back onto like you're gonna get yourself out. Like if you want to get out of that canyon, you're gonna get yourself out. People are willing to
Mhm.
help, but like it is all based on you. And yeah, you learn a lot about yourself, like fear, what you're scared of, what you can accomplish. It's cool. It's
Mhm.
always like giving some cool adversity, which I thrive off of adversity, man. I've had adversity my whole life with injuries and all of that, and it's never stopped me. So it's
Yeah.
cool to like. I think that's one of the other reasons why I love hard enduro. You're going into the unknown, per se. You go up stuff that you don't know what's going to be at the top, or what if you're going to run into like a massive waterfall if you're going down, or it's always kind of like these weird unknowns. But if you like that, then it's amazing. Some people don't
Yeah.
like that. Like I've talked to a lot of track riders who are great. Like I know this dude who trains locally here. His name's Rick Hollenbeck. He's 60, but he's amazing on the track, like fast track rider. But he
Mhm.
he sees me out at the property that we ride at, that my boss owns, and I made some hard enduro stuff around there. And he's just like, dude, what are you? He's like, what are you doing? And it's funny because he even says, he's like, dude, you don't know what you're going up against. Like when you're out there riding up in the desert. And I'm like, yeah, you don't, but
Mhm.
that's what's cool about it. Like you can go look at a track, and you know what I'm saying? Like go scope it out and see every jump you're gonna jump and every turn you're gonna turn. But hard enduro, like even if you go on your track walks, by the time you get to the section, it could be blown out.
Yeah.
There could be way more lines or less lines. That's what's cool about it. It's always something new, and so that's why I like it.
It's a lot of critical thinking
Yeah,
and like really fast-paced critical thinking. You have to
for
be
sure.
able to just make a split-second decision. And I think
Yeah,
that's a little bit in any discipline for dirt biking, but definitely in hard enduro, you have to do it. Like you said, it
yeah,
could be high consequence. You don't know what's on the other side.
yeah.
So if you're not in a race situation where you know the track is relatively safe, then that could be potentially deadly, which is scary, but you know, I think we've talked about it several times before that all of us that ride dirt bikes are a little bit of the same kind of crazy, and
Yeah,
everyone who rides hard enduro is a lot of the same kind of crazy. We're just a little
yeah,
different.
for sure. Yeah, if you're riding hard enduro, you have to like suffering or like challenging yourself. That's the one thing.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's cool because like you were saying, with like the lines and whatever, when you get up to certain sections and you don't know like what the best line could be, critical thinking, like being quick and being like, oh, actually I'm going to do that, and like
Mhm.
that's super important in this. And that's one thing I've been learning a lot about, because I'll
Yeah.
get into certain situations. Like I was leading up a canyon out this past weekend, and I was like, which way do we go? And like, even to I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, no, you don't need to be like that. Don't be asking, like, just figure out a line. But
Mhm.
sometimes you might pick a really bad line and it could put you in a really tough situation. And especially
Mhm.
when you're racing, like it's like you said, it's critical thinking because line choice is everything, and especially preparation. I've been learning that a lot with like setting up for certain things. Like that was one thing I never knew probably 2 years back. Like, oh, how like getting into like a really good groove and like setting yourself up, making sure like there's no rock under your back tire before you go up like a really gnarly obstacle. Like these are all these things that I've been learning in like prep. I'm trying to like preach it to my buddies who I'm helping out with like hard enduro right now because they're trying to get into it. My buddy Griffin and Mitch. It's cool because they they were like into like the enduro riding, but like once they like rode with me, they're like, dude, what the heck? Like we're going up some gnarly stuff. And I've been like, and they love it. Like they want to do
Yeah.
it. It's all, and that's what's cool about hard enduro too is like you're doing it because you want to do it, you
Yeah.
know. But sometimes we get in situations, and I like try to show them. I'll get up like an obstacle from like the good preparation, and I'm like, hey, like get in that same position, like load the clutch, make sure you're running smooth, like get a couple back and forth, and then go up it. And like the more I've done that, the more my riding has like progressed because I'm not so it's like patience too as well. It's also that's the one
Yeah.
thing at least for me, I've noticed the more patient I am, the more efficient I am on the dirt bike because I'm more
Mhm.
I think I get all rattled up like sometimes maybe and that's from like the desert racing but being like super fast paced like oh I got to go, I got to go, I got to go. But like the
Yeah.
more I've taken a step back and just been like looking at something, eyeing it up, getting in a better position, the more like I will progress with my riding and that day, which is really cool. So, so many things to learn, and I keep learning every day.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah, that reminds me. I think it was Connor Hennessy. He's a pro rider out in Australia.
Mhm.
He said the same thing about like just taking that little bit of extra time, just that
Yeah,
couple extra seconds to really look at something before you hit it because you may mess it up if you don't,
yeah,
and then you have to do it again, and that's going to give you more time than those couple seconds to just really look at it and figure
yeah,
out what you're going to do. So,
yeah. I've learned it's so cool how many people are like willing to show you these steps too, which is awesome. Like
yes.
you don't get that in like BMX community. Like, oh, here's how. There is people who do how tos. Maybe I'll take that back. But like some people, when they learn really good things, they almost like keep it to themselves, which is fine.
Yeah.
And that's kind of I think that could happen in any sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is people out here that really want to like teach you the proper ways to help you get up these things, which I think is
Yeah.
just awesome because you could watch
I,
videos and like training aspects. Like I've read so much from dudes. I guess like one of Tristan Hart's little training aspects that somebody was talking about is when he goes up hills and if he fails, he'll come right back down and automatically do it for like
yeah.
repetition and not like and that was one thing I used to struggle with. Like if I didn't get up a hill, I'd come down and like sit there and like look at it and eye it up again for too long or be dead, be like, but like if you kind of push through that, that's like another great training tool. Like just repetition. Like you're not racing, you're practicing right now. So just keep pushing yourself. It's like the sprinting thing, like I was saying earlier, like those sprints, I've learned a
Mhm.
lot from that too, like just going out and like sessioning a certain gnarly section and just doing it, just doing it until you're like
Yeah.
completely tired. And that's I've helped me the most, at least personally. But
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's really cool that there's so many people that are willing to help out. I mean, being somebody who's newer, I've run into a lot more people who are willing to help out and willing to be patient and show me how to do something than people who are just jerks and are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you do this." Those
yeah,
people exist, but there's a lot less of them than the patient people, the people who are really good, who want to see people do well and excel, like you said. I
for
mean,
sure.
um Makana rode with Will Reardon, and Will didn't have to show him anything like that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was one of the coolest things. Like, he
Yeah.
didn't have to go riding with him first. And
Yeah.
then second, he didn't have to sit there and session anything with him. He didn't have to teach him anything about fitness or nutrition or anything. And
Mhm.
he just did, because he's that good of a guy. And
Exactly.
he wants to see people progress in the sport. Makana's going to be his competition pretty soon. Makana's really good,
That kid is
but
yeah.
he it's just crazy how willing everybody is to share all that info.
Yeah. No, and yeah, speaking of all those young kids, like that kid, what is he, 15 or something?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
and
is.
I rode with another kid named Mikey Udell, and he's 17. And
Yeah.
it's awesome to see it. Like these young kids are so invested, and it like gives me more drive. Even like being 27, I'm like, ooh, I gotta keep up with these young kids, but like it makes me like more hungry too, because I'm like, I love it,
Yeah.
dude. I love seeing everyone progressing, and you see it daily on Instagram.
Mhm.
Like the level of like progression is just gaining. If
Yeah.
everyone's riding, like they're only getting better, and that's what I always say. I'm like, the more you ride, the more you'll get better. So
Yeah. Kids are starting out so early now, and they're
yeah,
learning so much, and they're getting so good so quickly. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but my friend's 3-year-old is doing hard enduro on his little like Stasic bike. And
what?
that kid is so good, dude. Like, for
That is
being 3 years
awesome.
old, like, it's
That
crazy.
is
He's
awesome.
got so much push. And I think Brandon just posted a video of him. Like, there's like a little ramp to go up this little step. It's not that big, but for a 3-year-old, it's a lot. And
Yeah,
he hits it, he doesn't quite make it, and he's spinning his rear tire, and you just see him like struggle to pull his bike back, and then he
that's
hits it again. Like, he could have gone up the ramp, but he still did it again, because that kid's just a badass. Like, his name is
that's.
Rad. He is very well named. Like,
I love that. That is awesome.
he's so cool. But like, all of Brandon's kids are actually really good riders. Um,
Heck
but
yeah.
they're they're starting so young. I mean, I just talked with Graham Kovac, and he just turned 15. He's at the top of the youth group, and he's
Yeah,
like doing really well overall for amateurs. Like,
for sure.
he's good.
I know. I
So
saw that kid out at Donner. He was ripping. He was ripping.
yeah.
Sure. He's gonna be. If he keeps at it, he'll definitely be up there with those guys for sure.
Yep. And
No,
the
it's so
cool
sick
thing
to
about
see.
Graham is that he's willing to sit there and learn. He doesn't just think like he's good and like, oh, I'm just
Yeah,
gonna keep riding. He wants to learn. He's doing as many like clinics and stuff as he can. So
that's
I
awesome.
think it's
Yeah,
really, really cool.
that's what it takes. You just have to be like open to learning because
Mhm.
the more like closed-minded you are with like these situations, the more it will just keep you back with anything in life. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I said, surround yourself with professionals, and that's only if you keep doing that, you might get to that level, especially if you keep up to it. So that's what's awesome
Yeah.
about any type of sport. Like, and I've noticed that with BMX. Like, the more I rode with really crazy BMX riders, the more I realized I could do. So,
Yeah.
and and be open, yeah, like be open because you really don't know it all. Like you get into
Yeah.
some of these races, and the terrain could be different. The like everything. There's so many aspects to it, dude. Like how you're riding that day, everything. But I think
Yeah.
it's amazing that a lot of people are willing to like teach and like Rich Larson's out there. Graham Jarvis does a bunch of freaking clinics. Everyone.
Mhm.
It's awesome. It's
Mhm.
awesome to see it. It really is.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely love it. I like to learn. So I've done the clinics with Jarvis. I'm looking to do, actually, when I get out to California, I'd like to go ride with Psycho, and do some time with him, learn from him. That'd be really cool.
But
I
we're
want to
gonna
learn from like Destry Abbott, and you know, it's
yeah,
just like, I want to, like, there's a bunch of different styles, and everybody kind of has a different focus. So for
yeah.
me, being like so new, I mean, to learn everything right. That's what I want. But
No, for sure. And yeah, like with people giving a lending hand, like I went, it's funny you mentioned Will Riordan. I actually would I'd bug SRT Craig and
Mhm.
not like bug him, but I'd be like, hey dude, I want to get into the hard riding, like I want to ride hard, yada yada, or I might have thought I did, and that's when I had my YZ. And
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, dude, like come out to the enduro cross track. And I was like, what? Okay. I was like, I've never rode enduro cross. So I went out there and I met Will Riordan at the time. He was out there with Craig, and then Corey Gerfunder was out there, and also Craig was out there. So they were all ripping this enduro cross track, and like I had no clue what I was doing. I made it through like a lap, which was it had some pretty technical matrices and stuff, and but at the time they were like, dude, what are you mixing your bike at? Because I like mixed it for 32-1 for like high speed like riding, and it was mixed right, but it was like smoking super crazy out there. They're like, dude, you could probably mix it to 50-1. And like they took the time to like show me how to like get through the matrix, because I like was going in blind to all that. I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
Yeah.
But they Craig took the time to kind of show me how to get through the matrix, and it was really
Mhm.
cool. It was like a huge eye opener experience as well. And the guy who actually owned the property at the time, I think they still have that enduro cross track out there. I'm probably 100% sure they do. But the guy like that owned the property was like, hey, do you like do any of this? And I was like, no, dude, this is my first time. And he was like, you should like enter an enduro cross. You might do pretty decent. Like there's people who come out here who can't like make it around a lap. And I was like, I don't know. Like I was like kind of worried, but like that's something I'd really like to get into as well. Like I think I might be trying to do that after this hard enduro series, trying to get dabble in some enduro cross for sure. Because I think I could do pretty decent at it at least, especially if I just put some more hours in it. But it's
Yeah.
cool to like again the lending a hand. Like those dudes, I could have went out there and they could have just been like, "You're a noob," you know. But they were like really cool about it. So
Yeah.
it's cool. Like in the off road community, everyone's like that. You mess up a part on your bike, people have it. You have a
Mhm.
bike issue, it's like everyone dives in. They're like, "What's wrong with it?" You know, it's
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
cool. I love it, dude. Because like I don't know. I think I've seen like the track life, and like the track life is very much like, oh, it's all like having to prove something and like being your own
Yeah.
singular team, and like regardless of all the teams in this hard enduro situation and like trying to be your own best, people will still pull over on the trail and help you get your bike going or give you a master
Yeah.
link or, you know, help you keep the race
Yeah.
going, which is really awesome. That's what I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
I agree. I think it's just the coolest community. I'm so happy that I found it. I'd
Yeah.
been watching hard enduro for like 10 years. Um, but I didn't know that there was hard enduro in the US until
Yeah.
this last
No, it's super. You're right. I've watched like the Erzberg stuff as
year.
well.
Mhm.
When I was like getting
Yeah.
back into like insane riding, I'd see like Billy Bolt doing like his nut stuff, but I'd watch some of those like TKO and stuff, and they had like that, but they didn't. Yeah, it's what's really awesome is this whole US hard enduro series, and thank you to Matt Musgrove, that guy
Yeah.
has put in
Mhm.
the work, and I've learned like even a lot from doing his moto climbs. I went out and because they have the moto climbs probably 2 hours away from my house, they do it out
Mhm.
at Carnegie, and I also did the one out at Donner. But it was really cool because I was just entering the pro stock doing that on my 300, which I really wish I had a 450 because I grew up doing hill climbs and like I climb out in Jawbone and stuff. And if I had a 450, I think I could really put it up against some of those guys because I went out there on the 300 and I made it to Verticross and I was doing the side by side racing with dudes on 450s, and the 300 really can't hang, like the 300
Yeah.
has what it has, but it doesn't have like that grunt to like bomb up hills. So, but just doing those events alone, like doing those and like how Matt just like tries to do the moto climb, the freaking hard enduros, like, dude, he's always working. That dude is constantly doing something for the community. It's awesome. It's cool to see.
Yeah.
Very thankful
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, definitely. He's so cool. Super, super nice guy. And
Yeah.
just again, we're talking about the community, just like super inclusive and just like, hey, what can we do to help you?
Yeah.
Like, that's really
No,
cool.
sure. Yeah, I broke my funny story. I broke my subframe. I guess I broke my subframe in the hair scramble of 23 Donner, which was a little ridiculous because I don't know. I was like in a very like big old pile up and my bike looped and it just broke the composite subframe on the Husky because I've transferred my bike from a Husky to a KTM. But
Mhm.
yeah, that was the first time I broke that. And like Matt was all in on it. Like he was asking people who had like subframes and like if anyone had anyone. And then and no one had one, but I ended up having to like drive to Reno, Nevada for one side because both sides snapped like on the mounts and everything. So I had to drive to Reno, Nevada to get one side, and then I drove to like Sparks to get the right side, and then I drove back to Donner and like installed it on the bike that night for the main hard enduro on Sunday. And I like started way in the back because I DNF'd on the prologue because my frame snapped. But yeah, just funny. Like he was all in, like he was trying what he could try to get me it, but it's like crazy what the experiences you'll get from these hard enduros. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
funny.
that's
But
so funny.
mhm.
That's crazy that you did all that driving.
I know, and
I, s-
I was so
I
like I don't know. I either was at the time I told myself I was like, if there's a frame, I'll go get it because I really want to do this hard enduro. You
mhm.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that was the hair scramble was super fun. I was just like right up behind this guy who had just passed me and he jammed up and then it made me like just loop because I was like full throttle into him. So it was kind of just like a silly mishap and then the bike just snapped. Like it landed in a position where it like landed on its side. It didn't land upside down. It landed on its side and it just like
yeah.
broke the mounts, which is really funny. Those composite subframes are a little chintzy, at least for me. But I told myself I was like, if I can't find one, then okay, I'll just relax and watch it. But I like
Mhm.
called those shops, and each shop was like, "Yeah, we have the left one," and then the other shop was like, "Yeah, we have the right one." But it was cool because I ended up driving like around Lake Tahoe and like seeing the whole like lake and made whatever out of it. But I told myself I was like, I'm gonna buy this subframe anyway, so if they have it, I'll do it and I'll go race. So I did drive like 2 freaking hours. It was like a 3 hour, almost 2.5 hour trip, but made it worth it. I learned a lot from that race, so that's the cool thing.
It's all about the experience. You made memories. That's what matters, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it was funny. We were like building the bike, and then this like drunk, and I couldn't even see anything. And those composite subframes are so like they're so compacted with like the air box, and it like all comes apart, and there's like little screws hidden. So we were like struggling, me and my buddy Brett and my buddy Joe, we were struggling to get that thing together. But it was funny because this dude like comes like stumbling out of the bushes with a beer in his hand, and he was like freaking just faded. He was just like, "That's a cool bike." Just little things like that, like the little experiences along the way, like you'll never forget it. And it just was like I
Yeah.
was like so invested. I'm like, "Who is this guy? Like, what the heck?" My buddies were dying because they were just like, "Oh, he just came crawling out of the bush." But just yeah, like the whole camaraderie of it all. It's just you get so much of it at these races. It's amazing. I love it. It's always something.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely love the community, the camaraderie, all of it. It's really cool, and that's kind of what's pushed me. I kind of wanted to do hard enduro before. It was
Mhm.
just before I even had a dirt bike. I wanted to do hard enduro.
Yeah.
Um, so since I got a bike, like that's kind of been my goal, and seeing how great the community is and everything, it's just
Mhm.
kinda solidified it more. I'm not that
Yeah.
great. I don't think I'm gonna do that well my first couple, but I still wanna do it and I still wanna try. It's just
Which
like
ones are you gonna do? Which hard enduros are you gonna do this year?
um, so I think that my first one is going to be Battle of the Goats. in April in North Carolina. So
Nice. There you go.
yeah, it's
Why that
really
one in
gnarly.
particular? Why that one then in particular? Just 'cause?
Um, Probably because I've ridden brushy a decent amount.
Yeah.
I've ridden kind of some of the sections that are in the hard enduro, or at least that they were last year.
Nice.
Um, and I can semi do them. So I feel like
That's awesome.
if I keep pushing and I keep like by April, I should be able to do it. My goal, because of my skill level, my goal is just to make it to one checkpoint. That's
There
just
you go.
like
Yeah.
that's my first one. That's all I want to do. If I do more than that, fantastic. Am I going to push myself harder? Yeah.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
if I get to one checkpoint, I'll just be like ecstatic. So,
There you go. You got that
um,
for sure.
yeah, hopefully.
You got
There's
that.
Tyler does a pretty gnarly enduro cross section, and I haven't really done like log matrices, so I need some work on that before, but it's not till April, so I've got some time.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you got time. Yeah, I love that's like one of the things I'm very grateful for having the mountains up near me. It's like Sierras, so it just has trees everywhere. There's down trees, and so
Mhm.
I feel pretty decent on like the log pops and all that. That kind of
Yeah.
came before like hard enduro, I'd say, which is one of the things with BMX too. Like I've done a lot of that over like Jersey barriers, like which they put in enduro cross courses. I've like
Mhm.
used to like jam those on the BMX bike and like get over them. So like now with a dirt bike, it's not like really scary to me. And that's the one thing I'm super thankful for, like BMX as well. It's like got a lot of fear because I used to do
Yeah.
some pretty dumb stuff, like not dumb, but like pretty scary stuff, like going off roofs to rails and like 24 stair down rails. And that always took a lot of commitment. So like now when I ride my dirt bike, a lot of things aren't like really like scary to me, I guess you would say. And I'll still run into some situations where like the illusion of it, like it looks scary
Mhm.
from certain situations, but most of the time, like I feel pretty confident on my dirt bike, especially being like fully geared up with the helmet and my boots and my knee pads and everything. Like I feel super like secure, especially like on the
Yeah.
BMX, like I used to just be bare, you know? So
Yeah,
I'm super grateful for it, but yeah.
yeah. I definitely get very visually intimidated. I see things and I'm like, "No." And
Yeah.
then I end up doing it anyway, but
There you go. There
it's
you go.
just it's really scary, and, like,
It is.
like I said, I don't have that kind of background where, like, I didn't grow up riding bikes, I didn't grow up
Yeah.
doing sports, I didn't grow up doing any of that stuff, so
Yeah.
this is all new in the last couple of years, and so for
Yeah.
somebody like me to be, like, coming up to stuff, like, I did a post last night of, like, coming out of this little wash section,
I saw that.
in Kelly Canyon,
Mhm.
and I saw them do it, and I was like, "There's no freaking way, that is way steep," and I I don't know. She was just like, just go up here, it's fine." And I'm like, "That spot is not any better than anywhere else." But I just looked at it and I was just like, "I'm just gonna try it." Like, again, like, what's the worst that can happen right here? I'm gonna fall backwards. My bike will maybe land on top of me, but they're both right there. Like,
Yeah.
this is the time to do it. Because when I lived in Maine, I was riding by myself a lot. I didn't have
Mhm.
anybody else to ride with. I've had a lot of time riding by myself in the last 7 months.
Yeah.
And so when I do that, I focus a lot more on like the training aspect, like sessioning small things. I don't
Yeah.
really focus on like pushing myself a whole lot because it's not safe.
Yeah.
So when I have people around, I'm willing to push myself a lot more because if something happens, I have help and then, somebody to call if I need an ambulance or something. But
Yeah. No,
um
for sure. That's super important.
yeah, I try to push myself as much as I can. Like so far I've made it through pretty much everything that people have taken me to. And
There you go. Awesome.
there's been a couple times where I'm like, what is happening right now? Like I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like in New Hampshire, my friends and I ended up on this trail and it was labeled an extreme trail. And I was like, I am not an extreme rider, you guys. Like this is
That's so
not
funny.
okay. There's just like miles of boulders. And at that point, I hadn't done any rock gardens yet, and so I was, like, falling over. It was just tipping over, but still, you know, it was really hot outside, and I was just
Yeah,
like, "This is a lot." But I still did it, and
there you go.
it made me feel really good to, like, push through, and I have absolutely too much confidence when I'm on my bike for my
That's
skill
what it
set,
takes, though.
but yeah,
What it takes, I think.
it's helping me to
It's
push through, and I feel like that's helping me level up a lot faster, is having that confidence and just feeling kinda secure that, "Alright, I'm gonna try this. I might not make it, but I know that I know how to get up it. I just have to make my body do the thing." So
yeah, no, for sure. And I feel like that's like one of the key components to it because you could be able to do something, but you could psych yourself out of it. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like truthfully. And like if you have that mindset of like, I'm gonna do this, and that's like one thing I've translated and I've learned from riding BMX as well is the more you visualize doing it and landing it, it's when you're
Mhm.
gonna do it. It's when you have those when you have it's good to have the period like the little bit of a doubt, like maybe throwing in your mind like, okay, this could happen, this could be the consequence, but now that I've thought about it, let's throw that out the mind and only think about what I need to do to succeed on this situation. And that's
Mhm.
like the one thing I've learned a lot with BMX. Like every time I thought I was going to eat crap or fall really hard, I did. Anytime I thought I was going to land it, and I succeeded perfectly. So I've
Yeah.
translated that a lot with riding, and I think that's the same thing. I'm like, and I think that's kind of a big thing with professional athletes as well. They talk about like visualizing, and I think I read about some of the supercross racers. They'll just visualize themselves doing laps and not falling.
Yeah.
Like before a race, they'll only think about like checking off laps in their mind. So when they get out there, that's the only thing they do. There's no bad thoughts in their mind because I think like if you think you're gonna fall, you might freaking fall. You know what I mean? And if you think you're gonna succeed, you will succeed. So there's little things
Yeah.
like that. It's all a mind game. And I've even
Mindset,
told
yeah.
yeah, I've even told some of my buddies that like who are getting into the hard enduro stuff, they're starting to go from like soft, medium to maybe some more extreme, and like they'll just look at it and be like, "Oh, dude," and I'm like, "Don't think about it, just do it." Like
Yeah.
think about what you want to happen, and that's what will happen. If you think
Yeah.
you're gonna fall, like it's the same analogy like with like riding it like and looking at ruts. Like if you're riding with a bunch of ruts, wherever you look, you're gonna go.
Yep.
So just kind of have that strong mindset, but it's hard to build that too. It doesn't just happen overnight for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
It's like
definitely.
a practice, I think, for sure. But it's cool to
Yeah,
talk.
it takes a lot to be able to just do that, and I've found that because I am a newer writer, a lot of times people stop in front of obstacles and they, wanna coach me through it, and
Yeah.
that's great, and I want to learn how to do things, but a lot of the times it's stuff that I can make it up, and if we stop, I have a lot more problems stopping because I'm so short and I can't touch the ground, so then
Yeah.
I end up falling over. Now I'm picking up my bike. Now I'm tired, like, so
Hmm.
if I just keep going and I really commit to it, I can usually make it through, and so
Yes.
I hate when we stop on stuff. It's like the worst thing for me, but it's also like people kind of overload my mind and it's just like, okay, you should be doing this, 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 and this. And I'm like, I kind of already knew that I should be doing that, but now I'm overthinking it. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, okay, like now
For sure.
then I hesitate. And when I
Yes.
hesitate, that's when the bad things happen. And if I just fully commit to something, I find that 9 times out of 10, I make it and I'm okay.
Yeah. And that's one thing I've had to like tell myself to like not do with teaching people, like to be like, hey, I think you should do this, like, or like stopping them because it's like really based on how your riding is and how comfortable you are. You know what I mean? And then the
Yeah.
more you like throw these other things into people's head, they'll start overthinking. And they're like,
Yeah.
they start thinking too much. But so I've had to learn that like with teaching people, I've had to just take a step back and let them do it. And then if they want some help, I'll give them tips.
Mhm.
But it's kind of, yeah, I hear you on that one for sure, no doubt. But it's all, at least for me, it's all by good means. Like I just want to help people
Oh,
out.
for sure. Yeah, and people just wanna see me make it through something, and I totally appreciate that, and I love that, but don't
Hmm.
stop right in front of the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't.
let's
When you
stop
got
a little bit
momentum,
back,
yeah,
like, because
don't stop the
I
momentum.
need to yeah, because I need to be able to, like, get back on my bike, and it takes me a second to get back on it and then, like, find my balance point. So, like, if I have to hit it, like, in half a bike length, then
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm still gonna be getting on my bike.
for sure.
Like,
Makes it harder for
it's
sure.
it does. So, I mean,
Running
and
for
that's my
sure.
own issue. I'm working on, getting better at getting on my bike all the time because I know that that's gonna eventually not I'm not gonna have the luxury of having that half a bike length to go before I do something. So, I'm
Yeah,
improving on that. I'm working on it, but for
yeah.
now,
I
I'm just giving myself that. So,
No, for
this is what
sure.
works for me.
Momentum is key to getting up some stuff I've noticed, but like with hard enduro, sometimes you don't have like any momentum,
Yeah.
like your bottom
Yeah.
starting stuff. So, but it all translates, like I think, and like I say, like just ride your dirt bike, have fun. And a lot of
Mhm.
people kind of get wrapped up in like trying to be either the best or like yada yada, and then you forget about just having fun, like, or
Yeah.
worrying about like where you're going out on a trail ride. Like I know it seems kind of stressful. We're in some pretty weird situations right now, but just have fun. Like just have fun riding your bike. And like
Yeah.
I've said that to like some buddies, and they've been like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. And it's like just it these little things can stress you out, and
Yeah.
it all goes back to mindset. Just continue to have
Yep.
fun. It'll all work out. But yeah, no, I love it, dude. It's amazing. So cool what you can learn from just two wheels. Seriously.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, so outside of like you said, you're gonna do the West Coast round for hard
Mhm.
enduro this year, other
Yeah.
than Hawaii. If you could pick any of the races outside of the West Coast, so we'll pretend like you are able to go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
If you could pick any of the other races, which one would you want to do?
I think honestly, if the funds are right, I think I might do Silver Kings. I actually kind of forgot about that. But you just kind of
Yeah.
brought that back into my mind. Yeah, I think I could have fun out at Silver Kings for sure. That place looks awesome. And I think if it's not like too close to the other races and works fine and I have the funds, I'll definitely just make the trip and do it. I'd love to
Yeah.
do them all. Like if I could do this whole series, and that's what it all boils down to is money. And like
Yeah.
kind of a bummer, but that's just the way it goes. And
Mhm.
with gas and funds, I still have to live. So
Yeah.
everyone's got to live. I gotta work. And but as much as I could do, I'm definitely gonna try to do Silver Kings. So I'm not too
Awesome.
familiar on some of those other ones though. Some of those other ones are like really far. TKO would be cool, but it is really close to Donner. So it's like
Yeah.
I don't know. If I can if I can make it work financially, I'm gonna try to do as much as I can, really. That's kind of the goal.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can tell you from personal experience that getting to all of them is very expensive.
Oh, I'm
I
sure.
went to just most of the East Coast ones this year, and I spent a lot of money doing it, and I wasn't even racing. But I was
You went
like,
to all
I
of them this
drove
year? You said you
almost
went to
all
all
of
of
them, yeah, on the East Coast.
them? That's awesome.
Um, yeah, I spent a lot of money, but I also went to Silver Kings this year,
Did you?
and it was so cool. Oh my god, highly
Yeah.
recommend. You would love it.
I heard a lot. I've been hearing a lot of good things about it for sure. So it's
Yeah,
it's kind of like the style of the backyard that I ride, woodsy riding like that. That's kind of like the area that I ride. It's like
there's a lot of rocks too. A
yeah,
lot of
oh,
rocks.
for sure. No, I know. That's what my area that I ride is like a mixture of like Donner in that. It has like big
Yeah.
granite slabs, pretty like rock gardeny areas, some waterfalls. it has a lot of fun stuff for sure. And then especially with
So
Rory, your funder, he made a bunch of gnarly trails. So, but anyways,
no, I was just gonna say it's funny that you talked about Donner. So Donner was actually recommended to be my first hard enduro.
yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
Hmm. I think Donner is like pretty like I don't know. Then again, it was my first hard enduro, but the bottlenecks get pretty messy there because
Yeah.
some of the sections that they have, like especially at the beginning, are like not hard, but like you have to commit to it. I think you would have fun for sure. I don't know. See, that's the thing is it's like it's hard enduro, so like you might suffer either way. It might be a good recommendation. I've seen a bunch of girls doing it out there. That's where
Yeah.
I was really shocked by the amount of like ladies were out there riding. It's really cool. And that's like a whole other discussion within like hard enduro. I love to see like the girls just like going hard and like pushing their
Yeah.
bikes and their bodies. Like it's pretty awesome to see everyone, anyone like
There's
you. It's just cool. And that's the other aspect. Like seeing people do gnarly stuff is just awesome. I think
yeah. There's
it's
a
cool.
lot more women who ride on the West Coast than the East Coast. It's like
Really?
a way, way bigger community out here.
Huh.
Yeah.
I
I
guess
I
I
think
didn't
that most of the East Coast races that I went to, I didn't see pro women, and there was 1 to 3 women in amateur, and that was it.
really. Wow,
So,
that is
yeah,
crazy.
I typically only I think the max that I saw on the East Coast was 5 women, until TKO. TKO was different, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was, not very many women riding hard enduro on the East Coast, at least that I saw this year. Maybe people were out on injury, I don't know, but, definitely a lot more women on the West Coast, so
that's
which is
interesting.
really cool. There's some gnarly
It
women out
seems
here.
like
I've
there's a
met
lot
some
of
crazy ladies.
some of those girls on that do the West Coast seem like they live in the East though too, which is kind of weird. I don't know. Some of them at least. Maybe I'm wrong, but there is a like all the trail bound ladies and stuff like Dylan, and
Mhm.
she's got a bunch of people that she rides with. It's awesome to see. It's really
Yeah,
cool. I love it. And I'd love to see like more people, more girls, especially like get into the harder technical riding. There's a lot of motocross riders I think across the board that are girls. I'd say,
mhm.
but it'd be cool to like see. I That's something I'd want to do is like have a little training camp that could like offer like a girl that might be able to like teach people hard stuff or get people into hard riding, or I could take people who want to learn hard riding, not just females but everybody. That's kind of like
Yeah,
goal that I want to do eventually too, is to start a little training camp. It'd be awesome. It'd be cool.
yeah.
It'd be really cool.
Yeah, I typically wherever I go, I try and help, gather groups of women to just go for rides, just to get women more comfortable, because in my experience, a lot of times women just don't have the experience. They don't get to go out as often. A lot of women are moms, and so they don't get to go out with other kids, and it's just seat
Yeah.
time. A lot of it's seat time. So,
Yeah.
um, I try and kind of support those communities so more women can do stuff like that.
Yeah,
Because
for
it's
sure.
it's really cool to see ladies out there kicking butt.
Yeah, even just you posting on social media could get like a girl to start writing, which is amazing.
Yeah,
I think it's cool. So
yeah.
about
It's
doing it.
it's
And
really
there's
crazy. There's actually been a couple who've told me that, and that they
oh,
started writing because they started posting, and I was like, "What?"
you're like, what? No way. No, that's awesome. See,
Yeah,
that's what it's about right there, dude. I swear. Just passing on
yeah,
what you know to the next person. And like that's always
exactly.
the best feeling to me too. Like when people are like, I'm sorry, like out riding and like hard stuff. And I'm like, dude, don't be sorry. Like I've been in that situation too. I've told people like, hey dude, I'm sorry, I'm struggling right now.
Yeah,
But most of the time, like people are just like, hey dude, don't be sorry. Like you're out here learning. Like it's
yeah,
awesome to see it too. And then like the progression like within people, like you take them out again and they're more confident. You're like, see, dude, that other ride that was like pretty scary. Like you look way more confident on the bike now. Like it's super cool to
Yeah.
see. And I always like even with setup and like drilling bibs and like doing all these things, like people are like, thanks so much, dude, for showing me. And I'm like, dude, yeah, like I had to learn it. Like somebody showed me, so I'm just passing it on to you, and you're gonna
Yeah.
eventually pass it on to the next person. That's kind of how this world works. It's weird, but it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's amazing for
I love
sure.
it. Well, on that note, like for somebody who's brand new into riding, what would you say is your best advice for just overall dirt biking?
So like brand new.
Yeah, somebody just got their bike like today and is asking for your advice. What's your best advice for them?
I think like learning fundamentals for sure. And I kind of like going back to how my dad taught me how to like take off really quick, stopping really quick. I think like a key thing for everyone would be to know how to stop like on a dime. Like you when
Mhm.
you need to stop like in hard situations, you could do that because when in the panic situations, especially for like a new rider, there might come those panic situations where you're faced up against like something that's coming around the corner or like any obstacle and you're not too comfortable. Being able to stop is like a key ingredient. Just
Mm.
little things like that. Learning how to, I guess, depending on what bike you're riding. If you're maybe a kid going out and riding figure eight track, learning how to turn properly. If you're a little older and you want to kind of ride a little extremer stuff like static balance, learning how to balance on top of the bike a little bit, turning. I think turning is a big aspect that a lot of people like exclude out of riding, like learning how to turn properly in a berm or just like standing turning, like moving around cones, just drills, not just purely drills though. I think the main ingredient is just riding, just getting
Mhm.
out there, just riding with people who are patient enough to take you out, especially, and try not to ride alone, especially when you're learning. It's kind of not safe. Maybe if you're in a closed circuit near your house, that's fine. But
Yeah.
if you're going out, just find a buddy that's super patient with you, wants to see you progress, wants to see you smile. That's like the main thing. Like you got to find people who want to see you do what you want to do
Yeah.
because if you surround yourself around the people who don't want to see you progress in life, then you won't. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think for new riders, just having fun, like, and trying not to like get so caught up in like thinking that you need to progress really fast because that's
Yeah.
good. It's a good mindset to have, but like you might stress yourself out a little bit. You might be worried about what others are doing or if they're doing it better than you or oh, I'm not as good as them. But like
Yeah.
progress with yourself, like have fun, work on your fundamentals, go out, have fun, ride with people, like I said, who are willing to take the time. But yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of it mainly, I'd say.
Okay.
Do a little
And
track
then
riding, slow vet track riding, do a little trail riding, try to contribute all of it, I'd say.
okay, I
Yeah.
like it. And then so what about somebody who's starting to get into hard enduro? What's your best advice for that?
Hmm. Once again, trying to find a good advocate that could teach you because you could study videos and like that's one of the situations that like I've kind of been faced with. Like I'm probably one of the only dudes in my area because Corey Griffunder actually moved. He's not there's really no other hard enduro riders. So I've had to like take it upon myself to learn. But if you could
Mhm.
find someone, learn from them or if not, watch a lot of these good videos. Like Rich Larson has a lot of amazing videos that once you have the skill on a dirt bike, you can watch these videos that break down how to get up obstacles, how to get over logs, how to get over rocks. If you want to do
Mhm.
this, just invest everything that you got, I guess, because hard enduro it takes a lot. It takes a lot. Look at setups. Try to find better setups like your tire setups, your bibs, your peg set up, like little things that will help you with progressing quicker. And
Mhm.
keep it fun, dude. Like, try not to worry too much. And I probably say that too much, but like, just have fun. Like, go out, ride with people who are really, even though it might be a little scary, like, go out and ride with the dudes who are a little faster. You're going to learn a lot from them, or like really technical riders, and just study it. Just study it. And that's the main thing that I've learned is just studying. Like, and I study it all
Yeah.
the time. Like, I watch big races. I watch some of these top dudes on the Instagrams. I'll stalk their freaking Instagrams. I'll see how they do certain like hard enduro techniques. And like, yeah, even riding with Psycho, I've learned a lot from him and how he gets up gnarly stuff, like loading up the clutch and then letting it out midway and like tracking up. Like, I've learned a lot from just surrounding myself with hard enduro. If you want to do it, you will. And that's the thing. And
Yeah.
if you're doing it for fun, just do it for fun. Like, some people want to ride hard stuff, but they don't want to race. And that's completely
Mhm.
fine. That's completely fine. Like, racing's not for everyone. But if you want to be like a hard enduro rider and just kind of have fun doing it, you could do that too. Just get out and study. There's so many, like I said, Rich Larson and all these dudes, they break down it to a T for you. And there's no one really hides their secrets, which is amazing. It's in
Yeah.
like nutrition, and you're gonna learn a lot about yourself too when you get into like the hard riding. Like, you'll start learning a
Yeah.
lot about your body and things that will help you stay like not huffing and like puffing, you know what I mean? Like, you learn a lot. So I think just
Yeah.
invest your time into it. It's like with anything. Like, if you're a new rider getting into hard enduro, how did you get to where you're at now? You just
Mhm.
rode. So just apply yourself in these hard situations. Put yourself in situations that you normally wouldn't put yourself in. I think maybe. I
I like
guess.
it. I like it.
Yeah.
So a little bit earlier, we touched a little bit on like your training for this coming year. Um, One of the things I wanted to ask is what does your nutrition look like in regards to all that as well?
Okay, so it's nothing like crazy. I know a lot of people follow like strict. I try, in especially within these last 2 years, I have changed a lot with like not eating unhealthy foods, like fast food, greasy stuff. And I still fall short of it. And I'm not gonna lie, you know what I mean? Like, I'll still go get a nice freaking Mexican burrito, or I'll go to In and Out. I'm not like
Yeah.
perfect by all means. But I try to practice it around like riding time and like racing time. I try to really practice it. But normally, I'll try to do some eggs in the morning with some toast or like stuff like that. I have pretty much like this similar lunch. I'll either eat a lot of pasta, like I'll make pasta for the week with like spaghetti and like ground beef, probably try to do organic, but I'll have that for lunch. I'll have that for dinner. What else, man? I try to do smoothies. I've been lacking on that. So with the racing season coming back up, I'm gonna try to get back on that. But I've
Mhm.
noticed personally, just trying to eat healthy, just trying to not take in any like processed food and like sugar and junk. And then especially recently, I think, yeah, actually today is 300 days that I've been off of alcohol. So I haven't drank alcohol for 300 days. So 65 more days, it'll be a year. And
That's so awesome.
it's made a huge, huge difference for riding and racing
Yeah.
alone. Like, I've noticed my body lost a lot of its like unnecessary fat that I carried around, and like just having like just beers like while I was out camping. And then like now it's just like amazing. I don't drink at all. So like I've noticed that help with like my everything, like my nutrition, metabolism, like everything. It's helped
Yeah.
tremendously. So I could recommend one thing, like if you're still like drinking and trying to do these hard enduro races, it makes it a lot harder. Like, that's all I have
Mhm.
to say. Like, it makes it that much harder. And I'm 100% sure these top dudes aren't drinking at all. They're not doing anything extracurricular outside of just riding hard. So that's kind of what I had to like get myself into. But I've noticed the like nutrition aspect, like when I go out and ride, is super key. Like the electrolytes for me in the
Mhm.
pack have made a huge difference. Like I run Redmond's Relight, which is like a really good product. They don't. I'm just recommending it to anyone out there if you're looking for some electrolytes. It has like real salt in it, which is like a brand and really good stuff. It helps you maintain and stay, like on your top game, and like especially with cramps and stuff like that. The goose, keeping the goose in the packs. I've noticed like the honey stingers are like a huge thing
Mhm.
for me when I go out and ride. When I'm like applying my like nutrition to when I'm riding, I get like the best results at least. And then just sandwiches, simple like bananas, fruits. Just like I said, nothing trying to stay away from the junk, but I'll still fall a little short with like a milkshake here and there. But like I try to like I'm trying to be more disciplined. And then especially leading up to like King of the Motos, like probably when I'm getting real close to like 2 weeks in, I'll be real honed in on like proper nutrition, eating a lot of like carbs. And I get like the best results when I like eat a bunch of carbs like the night before. Like if I eat a bunch of like spaghetti or pasta because it just has full of carbs. And I know some people don't do really good with like the red sauce and stuff, but it doesn't really affect me in like an acid reflux type of way. So I'm pretty thankful for that. But yeah, I'll eat a crap ton of that, and that like it gives me what I need to go ride. Just little things like that. Just stay away from junk
Yeah.
food. That's all I can really say for sure. For sure.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. When I started training for the ultra marathon, I really changed how I was eating, and I cut out a lot of that processed food, and I
Mhm.
increased my protein intake a lot, and it made a huge, huge difference. So
Oh, for
I
sure.
always
Yeah.
like to touch on that with people, kind of see what works for different people, because there are people who have messaged me asking me about nutrition afterwards because they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize that, people ate like that and whatever." Not everybody's as into nutrition as I am. So, um,
Yeah.
like I have a certification in it and everything just for fun because I wanted to.
Yeah. No, it's
But
super important.
it's different for everyone. Like you're very carb heavy. I
Yeah.
used to be like that and I put on weight really easily like that. So for
Mhm.
me, I have to like keep it super balanced. But that's just the difference in people's bodies. So
Yeah.
I always just
No,
like to highlight that and kind of see how nutrition affects people differently. I think it's really cool. I'm a nerd like that though.
no, it's awesome to know. I'll ask Dylan like what he takes or what he has in the pack while riding. It's
Mhm.
super important. But yeah, I'm super carb heavy for sure. But I've noticed I'm blessed with a fucking great metabolism. I think my metabolism is like super fast. So I don't really like
Yeah.
as long as I'm staying active, everything kind of
Yeah.
works out, I guess. And especially with my
Mhm.
job, like it's always something like pretty labory, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that keeps me in like good shape as well. And I'm very like, I don't know, I think my dad installed it in me. He's like a very like fit guy as well. So I try to like keep a good, athletic body, not only for
Yeah.
racing and riding, but just for health. Because I feel like
Mhm.
I feel better. I feel
Yeah.
better. That's mainly what I want. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Um Okay, so then my last big question is we talked about where you would want to go if you were riding anywhere in the States for a race. If you could go anywhere in the world, money wasn't an issue, where would you want to go to ride or race?
Hmm, man.
This is everybody's favorite. No one ever has an answer right away.
I know it's hard because I'm like, there's so many races that I'd want to do, but I'm sure I'd suffer. Um, man, I don't know. Like Erzberg seems awesome. Obviously, I'm sure that's a lot of people's like number one. Erzberg seems awesome. So does like Sea to Sky, like one of those.
Yeah,
Like being able
that's
to do
actually
one
the
of
number one
those,
answer.
I think I know, huh? I'm like, yeah, either that. Like Romaniac seems insane, but then again, I wouldn't mind it. But like
Yeah,
going and riding, that's definitely on the list, like of my goals. I definitely love to race at Erzberg or Sea to Sky for sure. It'd be awesome.
yeah.
Cool.
That'd be
And dude,
really
even
cool.
like I said, even Hawaii, like checking that off the list would be awesome. Like if I could make that race, I'd be so stoked to even just go race and suffer in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, well,
It's-
hopefully you can make it happen. That'd be really cool to see you there.
yeah.
I should be at that race, hoping to be. Should
Yeah.
be. As of right now, there's nothing keeping me from it, but it'll be my first time in Hawaii, and I'm super excited. I
There
know
you
a
go.
lot of people out there, so it'll be a blast. But yeah, just traveling in general is just super cool. I've been able to ride in like 15 states now, and I just think it's the coolest to go to new terrain and just kind of push yourself somewhere new. There's such beautiful places to see in this world, so I
Right.
personally just kind of want to go everywhere and ride.
I know. It's awesome. It's
So this is your time to go ahead and give any shout outs or thank yous, anything like that.
okay. So yeah, I would like to obviously thank my parents. They got me into this riding and they never pressed anything on me to do anything I didn't want to do. So super thankful for them, and along with all my friends who have, known that I want to like keep at it with this, and like the dudes that I'm talking about, they know who they are, and they've also like kind of told me that I can do what I want to do, especially with like progressing and racing and riding. So I really appreciate those people. And then along with the Gilberts who I work for, which is Dooley's Landscaping, they have supported me with riding and racing as well. So without any of those people, it would just be me. But it doesn't take just you. Usually, it's a collective effort to do these things. So without them, I
Yeah.
appreciate. I probably wouldn't be here. So I appreciate it for sure. It means the world. It's awesome. And
Cool.
also
Well,
you.
it's
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this. And it's awesome. It's cool that I got to come on here and speak with you. It's
Thank
great.
you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm really thankful that you had the time. You're really busy. So
I know.
it's cool that you're able to sit down with me. This went a little longer than I thought it was going to, so I apologize, but
Oh, you're good.
it was really cool. I feel like I learned a lot. So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
appreciate it.
Like I said, I I like talking about stuff, and I knew that we'd have a great conversation. So it's been really
Yep.
nice for sure. I'm stoked on it, and
Yeah.
I can't wait for people to like get to know me a little better. I kind of went off on the beginning, but I guess I just wanted to include my whole life situation with what's leading up to what I'm doing now. So
Yeah.
I'm stoked on
No,
it.
I think it's great. This is
Heck yeah.
exactly what this platform is for. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week. Um,